Welcome and good evening. Tonight we have a collection of 3 true home invasion scary stories. I must admit, some of my favourite types of scary stories. Nothing more horrifying than the thought of someone unknowingly living in your home, whether it be in the walls or plain sight. With that said, let's begin. I live in a big house in the countryside. The house has 2 floors, a basement and an attic. I live here alone since my wife passed away 5 years ago, or at least I thought I lived here alone, until weird things started to happen a few months back. The first thing that I noticed was that I heard what sounded like footsteps from the attic one late evening when I was watching TV on the 2nd floor. The first time I heard footsteps, I just shrugged it off, since old houses can make weird noises sometimes. Some weeks later, when I got home from work, I noticed that my fridge door was open. I've never left the fridge door open before, but maybe I have missed it this time. I checked the fridge and I couldn't find anything missing, but when I turned around in the kitchen, I saw breadcrumbs on the kitchen table. I hadn't eaten bread that day, and I keep my dishes very clean, so I found this a little bit weird. Later that day when I was doing the dishes, I saw the butter knife was already in the dishwasher. This made me scratch my head because I'm sure I hadn't put it there. I checked the bread, and it sure looked like it was less left than what I expected. Days and weeks passed, but without anything out of the ordinary happening until one day when I got home from a late meeting at work. I went into the bathroom to brush my teeth and get ready for bed, and I noticed that the floor was a bit wet and the shower was dripping water like it had recently been used. At this point, I had almost forgotten the earlier happenings, but when this happened, I started to think about it again, and for the first time I felt a little bit scared. It was hard to sleep that night. The thoughts were spinning around in my head trying to find a logical explanation for all of this. Maybe it was something with the pipes making the shower drip. Maybe the floor was wet from me spilling water on it without remembering. To ease my mind, I called a plumber the next day to check the pipes. The plumber checked all the pipes in the house and assured me that nothing was wrong with them. He told me that I probably just hadn't turned the shower off properly, and that was the cause of the dripping. I didn't believe it. I hadn't even used the shower that day. It started to drip. Time goes by and I didn't notice anything weird happening except for the noises from the attic, sometimes in the night. That's probably just the house being old. The only thing I find to be weird with the sounds is that I only ever hear them at night. I haven't been to the attic since my wife passed away. I keep some of her old belongings there because I couldn't throw it away and thought I'd keep them as some kind of memory for her. The attic is very big and could easily be made into a 3rd floor of the house if I had time or the money to do that, but I just keep it as storage. The only way to get up there is through the hatch in the ceiling in one of the rooms on the 2nd floor. To open the hatch you need a key that I keep in a key box. One day not long ago, I decided to visit the attic just to make sure to myself that there isn't anything there and the sounds that I hear have a natural explanation. Only problem was that when I opened my key box, the key to the attic was missing. First of all, it isn't actually my house. I'm currently house sitting with my girlfriend because the owner of the house, well, family of my girlfriend, were recently broken into. The house is in a very wealthy suburb in my city. It has 2 stories, a basement and a fucking elevator. We're pretty much just living here whilst they're away and looking after their dog too. We've been staying here for the past week and some really creepy shit has been going on at night. And when I've been alone in the house, I thought I'd share some of the things I've been experiencing on here because I'm not really sure what to do. Number 1. The first few nights I was hearing lots of distinct noises whilst in bed. Lots of traps and slight banging sounds. I thought nothing of it at first, passing it off as the house settling and whatnot. However, on the 3rd night I was drifting off to sleep. There was a loud enough bang that woke both me and my girlfriend up. The dog went absolutely mad and ran out of the room barking furiously somewhere towards the front of the house. I should probably mention that we were staying in the guest bedroom on the ground level, where the kitchen, living room and main entrances to the house are. The upstairs floor of the house is where the rest of the bedrooms are. Downstairs consists of a large car garage, a cinema and other varying small rooms. The majority of the house's appliances, lights and so on are controlled by an iPad. The loud bang sounded as if a heavy door had just been slammed. We both sat up and looked at each other with shocked expressions on our faces. The dog continued to bark at the front door. I grabbed the iPad and checked to see if there were any lights turned on in the house, and there was. Downstairs lights were switched to on. My heart sank into my stomach. The stairs to the basement were on the opposite side of the house from the source of the bang sound. Reluctantly, I got up and walked towards the sound of the dog barking, which by then had stopped by the time I got there. The dog just looked at me blankly, and there was no sign of anything unusual. I made my way to the basement stairs at the back half of the house with my girlfriend shadowing cautiously behind me. We went back to bed and slept without any further disturbances. Number 2. The other morning I was home alone doing a few cleaning jobs around the house. I was using the elevator to travel between floors because, well, why not? The novelty of it was too much. I entered the elevator and pressed up. The elevator thrusted upwards, but halfway up in between the first and second floor it suddenly stopped. I pushed on the then locked elevator door, a safety feature to prevent severe injuries, I assume. For the next 2 or 3 minutes I was stuck in there. I was certain that there was some sort of presence outside the elevator on the ground floor. It was almost as if something was listening for my reaction. Eventually the elevator jolted back into motion, giving me a slight fright, and continued to ascend. I could have sworn that I heard distinct footsteps slowly walking downstairs. At the time I shrugged it off to being some sound of the elevator. Number 3. Just this morning, I was home alone upstairs trying out the drum kit that was in one of the spare bedrooms. Sitting on the smaller drummer's chair, I had a blast banging on the drums and teaching myself how to play particular beats from popular tracks including Everlong, In the Air and Good Times Bad Times, but that's not the point. As much fun as it was having a hit on the tubs, I kept hearing a whisper coming from the room. I was unable to pinpoint the source of the whisper over all the drumming, so I stopped and sat listening with my eyes closed for a further noise. Hello. There it was again. I wasn't imagining it. A little high-pitched hello, but it wasn't a clear hello. It was sort of muffled and sounded like it was coming from a distance. But at the same time, it seemed like it was coming from right beside me. For a few moments I sat in silence. This time with my eyes open, sure enough I kept hearing the same hello. It was short, sharp, and more like hello, cutting right off at the end. I began to feel ill. Something wasn't right. The helloing continued and I couldn't locate the source of the whisper. After a long pause of silence, I heard it again. I turned around slowly in the tiny drummer chair. To my horror, the most frightening face I'd ever seen was floating right outside the window opposite me. The face had cartoon-like feature eyes and wide toothy smile, not unlike Marilyn Manson in Lost Highway. It was truly indescribable and absolutely terrifying to say the least. I left the house straight away and haven't been back since. My theory is that all 3 instances are linked, and that there has been someone living inside the house. I have warned my girlfriend about what I saw this morning, and she's going to contact her relatives. We are staying in our house tonight, not that we'll be staying there ever again until what I saw this morning has an explanation. My family moved into this house when I was 6 years old. Even then, I've always seen and heard strange things that I could not and still can't explain. Doors slam even when there's no wind, and all windows and doors are closed. I can often hear footsteps from upstairs when everyone else is downstairs. Even stranger, I notice furniture has always moved slightly when left alone in a room for a long time. My suspicions that I'd always had worsened when I got a dog. Since my mum got a job and I've been home alone after school for a few hours, I've noticed that the dog Sandy stays away from upstairs, even if I go up there when usually she follows me around the house after school. Even if I carry her upstairs, she will run downstairs at the first opportunity to do so. I usually also stay downstairs, as being upstairs gives me a sense of uneasiness and a fear difficult to put into words. It's as if every human instinct I have is telling me not to be there alone. Little things that happen so often, I tend not to notice them. I find my deodorant significantly more empty than what I'd left in the morning. My dog barks when there is nobody inside the house or outside. The radio in my parents' room turns on randomly. Chairs are moved almost as if someone was sitting in them with nobody at home. Chairs are moved almost as if someone was sitting in them when nobody was home. I find my books rearranged with the pages bent like someone has read them. All of these things scare me, but could be harmless. Recently, however, more has been happening than I can ignore anymore. When my parents and sisters leave the house, it often sounds like I'm not there either. On one of these occasions, I heard something that terrified me. I was sitting in the study downstairs on the computer when I heard footsteps on the stairs. I froze in terror as I heard someone or something walked slowly, quietly through the hall until it was outside the study and opposite the front door. To my relief, whatever it was opened the front door and closed it. For about 15 minutes I sat, frozen with fear. Then the front door opened and closed again. The thing walked a few steps before I decided to make it obvious that I was there by coughing loudly. Now it was its turn to freeze. After a few seconds I heard the quiet footsteps retreat back upstairs and I felt quiet satisfaction in scaring the thing that had plagued my nightmares since I was 6. I felt safer, for a bit, as I resting in the belief that whatever it is peaceful and just wants to live its life. I'm not sure of that now. Now that it's summer, my wooden bedroom door has swollen because of the heat making it difficult to open it. It can be opened, but it takes several attempts, noisily pulling the handle with full force. I'm grateful for that now because when I can't sleep at night and I'm lying in bed listening to my sister's snores echoing throughout the house, I hear quiet footsteps down the hall. I lie silent in a fainting sleep. I hear my door's handle being pushed down and something trying to open my door. This is happening more and more. I am scared and grateful for the swollen door, but I don't know what I'll do when it's easily openable again. Thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed, then maybe give another video that's on screen now a listen. And with that said, hopefully I'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you.